And we'll wait just a minute.
Yeah, I have it on my thing here where it's like,
Okay. I think we're good to go.
what's happening, everybody? Welcome to the Accountability Success Circle monthly webinar. This is episode 19, where we are going to be talking about how to expand your circle of influence. Every year we have a different, or every year, forgive me, every month we have a different focus at the ASC that helps us just channel our energy and help us get more done while having more fun. So this month our theme is expansion, and we're super excited to just have a discussion about some very powerful techniques. We have our other co-lead here, Rebecca Mars. Hi, Rebecca. Um,
Woohoo!
who this is her jam. This is her forte. So she's going to be pouring out all the wisdom to help you just level up all areas of your life and just be more influential to yourself and to others using some powerful techniques. So without further ado, first, I want to just take a moment and have everyone just sort of check in. We'll start with Rebecca. How are you doing, Rebecca?
Doing pretty good today. I'm happy to have some more space, which I'll talk a lot about today in this day. I've been running all over here in Florida. Things are just popping, and today's the day I just get to be at home, do online stuff. So it feels really good, and I'm ready to chat for the hour.
Yay. And what about you, April? How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I am fully vaccinated and have been kind of under the weather for the last what feels like almost a week now, but I'm feeling good today, and I'm super excited to be here with you guys. And we have Karen from Fargo checking in, so I just wanted to say hey to her. And for those of you who are checking in, again, this is our webinar series for the Accountability Success Circle. If you are watching just from being a subscriber on my YouTube channel and you're curious about the community, go ahead and check us out at www.accountabilitysuccesscircle.com. But I also know that there are some of our community members who will be watching and chiming in as well, either live or watching on the replay. So thank you guys for being here, and super excited for what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah. All right. So, by the end of this, like I said, we're gonna be dropping the knowledge bombs. We're gonna be giving you some amazing techniques that you can put into play right away. But it's our hope that by the end you will understand a few things. One, the difference between expansive and contracting energy. That's going to be really interesting, and how to channel that energy through meditation. And then it's all about maintenance and maintaining that healthy expansion as you evolve and grow. And then finally, we'll talk about boundaries and why they are essential to help you expand. So, Rebecca, let's sort of kick it off. So, do you want to, since you are our resident expert in this area, just tell us a little bit about these different types of energies, just so we can get a little primer on that?
Yeah, of course. So in terms of expansive and contracting energy, I think I've heard of this for years. And as I go through this content today, I'm sure people will be like, oh yeah, I kind of like know that, because it's something that we all know. It's in our body, it's in our cells already. We know when things feel open, we know when things feel closed, but it's also today tuning into that next level of being aware of it so that we can do something about it or use it to our benefit versus just have it happen, because we're constantly opening and closing, kind of like jellyfishes all the time. So with expansive energy, as one might guess, it is more open. It is more feeling like this versus contracting energy that can feel more limited in the body. It can feel like we're not fully able to just be ourselves. We're kind of hanging out tight and small and hiding. And with expansive and contracting energy, I don't have an actual definition for those, but it really is this feeling state, I find. And you'll feel it in your body, you feel it in your mind. And because whatever goes on here is also going to go on out here, then life is also going to be feeling expansive or contracting in terms of energetics. And when we think about energy and what is energy, energy is everything. Energy is this whole universe that we're living in. We're made of energy. We're made of, yes, like body, but then what's the body made of? Cells. Okay. And then cells, what are cells? Atoms. So we get into this quantum field of what life really is. And we can look at anything in the room that you're in now. You can look out the window. Everything is made of that. It's made of atoms. It's made of particles, made of elements. We're all made of the same stuff, or we're made of stardust, as Carl Sagan, and famous astronomer, had said at some point. So we're all made of stardust. We're all made of everything that's around us. So when we realize that everything is energy, it's like everything is vibrating. Everything has the ability to expand and contract. Nothing is set. Nothing is, even concrete is made of atoms, even steel atoms, even mountains can wash away. It's like there is no permanence to things that we might think are permanent. So the more we can tap into this truth that everything is energy, and then what's going on within that energy, then I think it's even clearer around, okay, well, now that I'm open to everything being energy, now like let's look at how it's moving and how it's flowing, and what does expanding feel like in the body? What does expanding look like in my life versus contracting? And so when we're in this expansion phase, there is more of this feeling of bigger vision. And thinking of tunnel vision, that's not very expansive, like right here, versus when we can open this up, it's like, whoa, I mean, everything's possible when we're in this expanded vision. So expanded energy can also lead to just a bigger vision for yourself. When you can tap into expansive energy, it's letting you be more self-expressed. I'm even just thinking of when you're like, Apryl was kind of hiding over here, like when we're hiding, when we're being contracted, there's parts of us that we're not able to express. And I'm all about people like living out loud, like letting all of you be out and open. And there are plenty of things in life that can make you want to hide and make you want to shy away and maybe shield just certain parts of you. And that's okay. Like that's part of how it goes as well. But then realizing at some point, like, can I be more self-expressive? Because this is it. This is like the one chance we all have this lifetime to like be 100% us and beyond. And so also with expanded energy, there's this empowerment that comes, and it really is about just taking up that space, being who you are, being more expressive, having the bigger vision. And with that, I find comes this level of empowerment of like, oh yeah, I do get to change my field of space and my field of vision. I do get to decide what part of me shows up. And there is this level of empowerment that is always there, but you can actually tap into it and use it and claim it when you're in more of an open energy versus contracting. And then one final word I'll toss out there is just this up leveling. I think you mentioned it there in the beginning, Gary, just like, we want you to up level. We want everyone to up level. Like, this is why we're in the accountability success circle. So I know we each are doing what we're doing. And so when you can tap into expansion, it's already there. It's almost like the expanded energy will just lift you. You don't even have to do anything when you tap into it, because energy is moving constantly, change is moving constantly. So when you can tap into that, it's like, oh, now I don't even have to do anything. And I'm like up leveling myself. And I don't know about you, but I would much rather just let it happen naturally than have to like work my butt off all the time. So when you can really own the energy of that, I find that just so many things open up and it feels just a little lighter, all in all.
Yeah. Apryl, what are your thoughts on that?
I feel like what I love about this topic is that, I think we all want to grow. We want to all evolve and be a better version of ourselves as we pass through life every day. And I think that when you're thinking about that energy, you can see it in your body. There were times where, Rebecca was talking and I was like, I shouldn't sit down. I need to like open my heart. I need to be able to, sit up straight and expand myself that way so that I can receive what she's saying. Because if I'm closed off, I almost feel like I'm holding up a shield. So it's really interesting how, even just how you present yourself, that very, very small little tweak of sitting tall, like I already feel more expansive in the sense that I'm, more open to receive. But there's there's that idea of, how can you receive this expansive energy, but then how do you then turn around and give it? So I'm really excited to dive into that, because I'm thinking, what is it that I need to do to always, to maintain this expansive energy? Because a lot of times I like to slouch. I like to, and I do tend to close myself off sometimes when I'm focused on something else. And does that support me in leveling up, not just with my posture, but just even with the ways that I think as well? How about you, Gary?
Um, one of the actually you what you just mentioned is one of the reasons why I am so curious about this and cultivating that expansion feeling, because like Rebecca said at the top, it's all connected. So when you are contracting, your body affects your mind, which affects your sort of thoughts and actions. You come from this tunnel vision, and like, if we're the type of people that want to do big things, and as big things is all subjective. Everyone has their own definition of big things, but I agree that when I'm in that expansive sort of mode and I feel expansive, my thoughts are expansive. And you're right, it just sort of just flows. Whereas if I'm feeling, sort of contracting, my everything goes that way. Like I'm more sort of judgmental on myself, and the things that I'm thinking is not necessarily in the collaborative nature and stuff like that. So like, yeah, I'm like, hey, I know we can't always be that way. That's if everything was always happy, how would when things are happy? But if we can be there more often than not, I'm cool for that. And so that's why I'm excited about this conversation of like, yeah, how can we keep that momentum going? And when we find ourselves sort of getting to that sort of the ebb or the valleys, in those situations, how can we quickly notify, like realize it and start to do the work?
Totally.
Mhm. Yes. Yeah, and you both mentioned it's also within the energetic idea of like life is energy, which it is, the whole universe is energy. And part of that is the valleys, and knowing that it's gonna fluctuate, and we're gonna have our high times, our low times, our good vibes and our bad vibes. And so, and we're not bypassing anything through this, but it is using the expansion as a tool to, like, when we dip, realizing like, yeah, it's going to happen, and we get to choose what we do in that moment. We get to choose. Sometimes we just need to do the thing April's doing. Sometimes we need to just slouch and cocoon away and have that time. But the more we each become in tune with, what feels good in our body, what it feels like, and have more of that understanding around, all right, well, sure, I can choose to like just hang out and hide, but then staying connected to the bigger vision, which is also something that's so great in what we offer here and what you both are so good at in terms of, what do you want and where are you going, and you're here and then you're going to be there. And so with thinking also of the purpose and the passion that lies in each of us, and staying connected to that. And so in a way, the idea of using this as this scalable tool, this self tool of expansion, and feeling what does it feel like in my body, and then still knowing having the why still present, having like, why is this even important to you? Stay connected to your purpose, your passion, your mission in this life. And so that's a whole other conversation, but that also keeping that in mind, that when you're on your life journey and you're working towards the thing, and then this is just another tool in the tool bag to have to help get you there, and to help you, continue to feel even more connected to that why, and to feel even more into the energy of what that even feels like. So right now you might even think about your big why of what you do, or a goal that you have right now, and how does that feel to think about? And for most people, it'll probably feel expansive, or I hope it does, or that's a real quick way to check what you're investing your time and your energy into. So if you think of it right now, and there's any part of your body that's like, ew, contracting, like, there's your sign right there, which we'll get more into that today. So you can also think of it as, it is just this other thing, and there's so many different life tools, but this is one that's also going to keep you moving towards that why. And you can gauge already, is that why, does that feel good? And years ago, April, Martha I think she said oozed, is it an ooh or an ah? And so that's also the idea. And I started to say blah to ah or something like that. I wrote an ebook years ago. That was my first one. Like, is it a blah? Is it an ah? How can you turn the blahs to ahs? And so you can think of that also as this scale that you have of everything that you're doing in your life. Is it an ooh, or is it an ah, yeah? Or is it a blah, or is it an ah? And so you can do that with the food you're going to eat. You can do that with your goal, with your vision. You can do that with the people you're around. You can do that with like literally anything in your day. Is it an ooh or is it an ah? And if that can be expansive would be the ah versus the ooh would be contracting.
Yeah.
And expanding into then those things that are feeling more awe like, more like, oh yeah, it feels good to think about right now. Oh, that makes my heart sing when I think of it. That makes my body buzz. That gets the excitement. And we start to feel too, and the energy talk. And we've talked about emotions in the past, but then also feeling the energy of emotion in the body. So that also can be something you feel into. And then what emotion is present when you feel expansive? And again, it's all energy. Emotion's just energy in motion. So then there's that feeling that you'll also start to have in the body. And I'm all about embodiment. I'm all about, not just thinking, oh, I've got this body, but like getting into it, getting into the feelings that are there. And so this all starts to tie together when it's like, yes, it's all energy out there. It's all energy in here. And then what does that even mean? Well, it's like the feelings you have, emotional feelings. It's the actual physical feelings that you have in your body in terms of, you might get a little tightness in your chest. Like you might actually feel things in the body start to respond to the things you're doing out here. And it's not a might, it's that you will, because that's how it works. But then how tuned in are you? Or have you shut some feelings down? Have you shut down some feeling state, which you might, because that's what happens also as we go through life. We might protect ourselves and shut out and numb out from some things. But the more we can feel, the more we can use this specifically today, this whole expansion thing as well. Any thoughts on that?
April, do you want to go first?
You can go first.
The first thing that came to my mind, and it was interesting because I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense, was how we've been conditioned as a society to feel guilty. And around like the oohs and the ahs, like, yes, we all want more of that feel good feeling, that expansive feeling. And my question for you, Rebecca, is like, with someone that is, maybe they're getting into this work and they're realizing that they need to, take care of themselves, and maybe set some relationships aside. But if someone is starting to get that guilty feeling, like they're taking up too much space, or they're being selfish, what advice would you have for that person?
I mean, it's such a case by case thing. The first thing I usually say when the G word comes up of guilt, that in the yoga language of Sanskrit, there's actually not a word for guilt. And it's like, what would life be like if we didn't even know that was a thing to feel? What if it was a feeling, but what if we didn't even have that connotation that we have, like, I feel guilty about doing this. Like, what if you didn't have that in your vocabulary at all? So that's like the first thing I always have to say when guilt comes up. But I totally get it. And I get that feeling of, oh, this is like too much time I'm focusing on me, and this is too much time I'm taking away from this because I'm focusing on me. Is it selfish? And I think it's been pretty, this last year, especially more and more of around selfish. I mean, it's not bad to want to focus on yourself. And I think there are it's all in a spectrum. So there are the points of looking at the amount of time you have, especially if you have a family and things, and you do have other responsibilities, if so. And it's the whole thing of filling your cup and putting the oxygen mask on first. So doing enough things to make sure that you do feel, though, that you're full, and only you will know that. So there's a point of just almost not worrying about other people and what they think in terms of something like this, or chatting with someone that you trust and really getting another lens on having someone reflect to you, because there's also this element of yoga. It's this word rahasya, of some things just aren't yet revealed to us. And sometimes we do need to have that mirror. So a good friend, someone who feels real safe and neutral, and you can ask them, does it seem like to you, if you feel like that's important, that's just one way that you could approach something like that, of just getting an outsider lens. Because I know for me, sometimes I'm just spinning in my own head and only seeing what I'm seeing and only feeling what I'm feeling. So to have a good friend who I trust, I can speak and share some of these things. Like, I feel like I've been focusing on myself a lot. Like, do you feel like, have I been like attending to you? Have I been watering our friendship enough? Have I been asking you how you're doing? And a lot of times it's all good. A lot of times it's just the self-doubt and the part of us that's feeling like, the not enoughness, the worthiness, like some other, things will start to bubble and percolate. So in terms of feeling worthy of the expansion, feeling worthy of the yeses, and exactly what you said, Gary, it's like, it's social conditioning more times than not, of like, you are not supposed to shine too bright. You can only shine so bright. And it's the whole thing of Marianne Williamson, the whole quote of our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate, but that we're more than adequate. And so just remembering that there is this kind of societal thing that has made us all, I'll group us all here in this collective talk, but it's like we all have this ceiling, if you will. And so it can feel a little, oh no, am I shining too brightly? That's something I've been working through for the last few years. So just knowing that, you probably know in your gut if you are or not, and if you need reflection, get the reflection, and just trusting that you still have to take care of yourself first. And you'll know when your cup is full. But it can be scary if you've been spending years or even decades of your life not living with a full cup, you know?
Real quick, Rebecca, I want to chime in on something where I feel like, and this might bring us to our next topic on how to, what are some techniques to channel that. A friend of mine, her name is Dr. Emily Anhart, and she's a clinical psychologist, and she had said a lot of times we like to tend to like go to our gut, like on what we should do. However, in cases like this, our gut may be wrong because of conditioning. And you need to like bring awareness to this, to like, of like, is this your intuition or is this someone else talking? Because it may be a result of trauma and you're saying it's your gut, but it's just more of a sort of a reflex because of conditioning. So I just want to bring that up. And because a lot of times, I hear people say, well, my gut's telling me this. And then when you probe deeper and you ask why, you realize, and you ask the question, is that really your gut or intuition talking, or is that someone else talking on your behalf?
That's so powerful. And I'm so glad you said that, because I haven't heard it put that way. And I think I'm so in the world immersed in intuition and heart space and chakras and all this stuff. And to recognize that for a lot of people, that is probably very true in terms of not even knowing what their gut says anymore, because there's so much noise out there our whole lives. I think from childhood on, especially in the last couple decades, it's loud. We got social media and all streams, all times. We got new, everything. So that makes a lot of sense. And for me, when it comes to decision making, I do have to be careful sometimes that's the heart. So what you said around the gut and what she has said around the gut, I also hear that around the heart. So I do tend to steer people more to the gut. But now I definitely am going to be thinking more about that too. Because sometimes like, just listen to your heart. But that's where so much emotion is in terms of wanting to take care of other people. So sometimes the heart, although it's very important to listen to your heart, when it comes to decisions, for me, when I was dealing with a pretty tough decision over these last few years, my heart was getting in the way of what I knew so much in my core. But there is then like that layer of make sure that you don't have like a protective bubble around your actual gut instinct that's been placed there by whatever, that you're actually getting through that and getting more into your gut. And I feel like what we'll get into next will be even more, well, how do I get there then if that's going on, or how do I figure out if that is something that's going on? Apryl, do you have anything else to chime in on here?
Yeah, I think I have something that I want to say, but I think it'll derail us off topic a little bit. So I'll bring it up a little bit later. Because I think that we are making this good segue, because now I'm like, but I do want to know. And as somebody who is very like tactical, I'm like, what do I need to do to feel this if I'm not, if I'm not necessarily conditioned to understand like what expansive energy feels like, how do I do that to just at least get myself in that place so that I can then go on and do the next thing? Because I see that, having expansive energy allows you to flow, and that's good. But what if, how do we get there to start with, so that then we can focus on all the fun goals and accomplishing and, taking action on that expansive energy, which is always where my mind goes.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Well, so first of all, for me, and this is all just my opinion, of course, but like getting into your body is step number one, like getting into your body and moving your body. If you can move your body, however you can move your body, because we live in a very intellectual space in terms of, right, all day, every day. Yes. Play guy here. So whether you like to play, whether you like to dance, Apryl, dance, like play music, it's like every day, get into your body. It doesn't need to be exercise. It doesn't need to be, whatever, dance around the house, like, but you've got to feel your body. And I mean, shaking goes back centuries, but even just like shaking around, and that's kind of what we do when we dance. It's like, you got to get the systems moving. And when it comes to, we'll talk about meditation here, but to just plop yourself down and tell someone to just sit still is very unrealistic anymore, especially when our bodies are built to move. These bodies want to move. And so when we sit for hours on end, we, as pretty culturally speaking here, like, it's not good for the body. And so there's stuck energy already in the body from sitting. And if you've heard of sitting disease, it's a thing. I mean, there's too much sitting, and it can wreak havoc on not just your physical body, but then you, like, in terms of the shell, but also inside. You can have gut issues. You can have things just are stagnant. People wonder why they have all these issues of all sorts. And it's like, start by moving your body, get the energy moving, because again, you're all energy. So that's like number one, every single day, make sure you're getting into your body. Now, it doesn't mean some days you might be really worn out. I'm not saying go like push it to the limit and do something crazy. That might mean soaking in a tub. That might mean getting a massage. It might be, you know, like, how can you feel your body? And from my work that I've done in years now, 15 to 20 years, like, I started in the gym. That's when I started working with people, and I was personal training for years. And it would just blow my mind how many people, they were so disconnected to their bodies. So maybe you need to join a gym and work with a personal trainer. Maybe you can just put something on YouTube, but I don't even care anymore. It's like, do this other stuff I was mentioning. I just want you to feel, because whether it's through trauma, absolutely, whether it's through just mental stress and all this extra headiness, and people start to just live from here up. And there's just this, like, there's so much, even right now, if you just like touch your body, it's like, touch the body, feel the body, okay? And just feel like, oh yeah, I got a body. So that can already help to bring some headiness down and start to get some of this energy more down here. So that's step one, move or get into your body, however you get into your body. And then step two is you do have to create some space. I find you do have to slow things down. You do have to create some moments of pausing. There's a lot of power in pausing. And although this past year has helped a lot of people step into some slowing down, there's also, I mean, at the same time, the slowing down we had to face for some people was the opposite of what the slowing down I'm talking about. Is the slowing down that could have freaked people out, or people are having to slow down for other reasons. So there's like this intentional slowing down to create some space so you can actually feel then what's going on in the body, first of all. So you got to move it, tune into it, and then you got to slow down to actually listen to it. And the body's always talking. The body holds so much wisdom, and this is embodiment, and this is somatics. Like, the body knows so much. The body is processing experiences you're having faster than your brain even can figure out. So when you think of going through a single day, just the moment, the example I give a lot too, and I know I feel this, if like someone cuts me off on the highway, you're driving, all of a sudden someone cuts you off, you don't have the time to like really release what just happened. So you might feel that jolt in your body, and then you keep driving because you got to keep driving. And then it kind of dissipates, but it really doesn't go away. You've now lodged that into your nervous system. And when you go through life and you go through points like that, so maybe it's not in a car, maybe it's someone just saying something that hurts your feelings. Maybe it's something that you watch on TV that impacts your heart. And so then if you just keep moving through your day real busy and you don't tune into what you're actually feeling in the body, it's most likely going to get stuck in your body. And those stuck things in the body lead to disease. So our body is in a natural state of ease and flow. The body wants to heal. The body wants to be expansive because the body's just energy. But then we've got all these little things that start to come in and they knot us up inside and they break down. And they literally, I mean, these experiences I'm talking about will create like little dams, little blocks in the body. So then all of a sudden there's this dis-ease, there's this no more ease. And so when this happens, it's stress essentially, and it can turn into everything, right? Everything's rooted in stress, like pretty much everything. I'm not a doctor, but you know, you can look up just about any ailment and they're going to say it's rooted to stress and inflammation. So there's also that point of clearing the body free of that just so you can stay healthy. And then when it comes into, okay, so I'm going to slow down, I'm going to feel my body. And then things might come up. You might, when you slow down, you'll actually feel from 3 days ago when someone hurt your feelings or when someone cut you off on the highway. But until you slow down, those things can't fully come to the surface. Like, I think even Jay-Z has a quote of, you know, you've got to reveal it to heal it or something like that, where it's like so true. You've got to bring it to the surface. You've got to reveal it to heal it. You've got to feel it, reveal it, heal it. So it's just this constant purging of these things that are holding you back from being expansive. These things, the memories, the things from your childhood. I mean, this is a much deeper conversation, but just knowing that all of your experiences are living in your body. So moving and shaking can do wonders. If you think of an animal, when they get knocked down, oh, they just kind of shake it off. They literally shake it off. So we are animals. We have the same programming in our nervous system. So that's where like movement can really help. If you're thinking, oh gosh, I've got a lifetime of things lodged in my body, it's okay, because you can shake a lot of that out, literally Taylor Swift style or whatever, right? So you can shake it out, you can dance around, you can slow things down, and then know if things start to come up when you slow down, that's okay. You need them to clear. So you're clearing your energy, and in that, that's already expansive. It might feel a little like ooh-ish, but if you can recognize that sometimes that ooh is a purge, you got to get the ooze out of you, the ooze of the ooze out. So then it's like, which ooze am I saying? EWW.
Or O-O-Z.
There we go. Another one. OOZE ooze. So then you get, oh, now I'm free. Now I can really feel the energy. And the tricky part is, unless you're like living hold up from life and not talking to anybody, even then, I mean, you're going to be impacted, because again, this is life. It's peaks and valleys. You can't just have all peaks all the time. But like we were saying in the beginning, like using this now as a way to help handle the ups and downs. So you want me to just go into meditation here? Do you want me to chat about it?
Real quick, before you do that,
Yeah.
can I just add one more point?
Please.
Because I love serendipity, because I'm reading this book. It's called Burnout: The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle. And I believe her name is Dr. Emily Nagassi. So she's talking about just exactly what you were talking about, in that animals, they are met with stress, and they go through fight, flight, or freeze. And then once that stress, whatever that is, that stressor is gone, they release it. And it's sometimes like some like convulsion type stuff, or whatever the case may be. And you're right, we're animals as well. And a lot of times we have a stressful moment, and because we're so busy, we don't release the cycle, and it stays in there. And then before you know it, you have all of, like what you said, all these blocks, all these things that are pent up. And what she advises, and this is why, she talks about, in the book, she talks about exercise, but it's not necessarily exercise like you would normally do it. And it could be anything, again, to move the body, because if you can get the dopamine and the endorphin stuff going, like it sort of releases it. And then, but the other thing she said is that if exercise is not your jam, what you can do, and this is how powerful our freaking minds are, you can lay in your bed and start at the top of your head down to your toes, and act like you're like, it's almost like, maybe it's like tapping or something like that, but like you're going through, and you're like imagining like you're going, like, you're fighting or whatever, and you're just imagining all of your parts of your body just like sort of firing. And then you could do that as a way to release it as well. Like, but the whole point is having awareness that something did happen, and making the space to get rid of it. And I feel like this is a great sort of segue to meditation, because I feel like meditation helps give us the ability to recognize that. So I just want to just put that out there.
I've wanted to read that book too. I've seen some people tossing it around, so I'm glad you reminded me that it was out there. So true. So true. And the power of the mind is wild. And that is a great segue to the meditation. And, meditation is a lot of things, but ultimately it is dealing with the mind. It is, I don't like to use the word focus, but for a lot of people, that's a great first step, is focusing the mind on something. But that something can be all sorts of things. It doesn't have to be this one pointed candle flame breath thing. You can focus on a daydream. You can focus on doing what you said of like going through the body. You can focus. But the thing with focus too, and just since I said it, it's like we're focusing all the time, especially in the age of phones. I mean, there's probably more minutes than not are spent on like the phone, focusing on something, on the computer, focusing on something, fixing meal, like whatever you're doing is focusing. You're constantly focusing. So there's a need in your mind to stop focusing at a certain point. It's like give the brain a vacation. So my approach to meditation is more of that, of this instinctual style of meditation. And really, meditation is all the same. I usually describe it as like, it's like everybody wants the same thing when they come to meditate. Basically, they want expansion. It's like this big ocean out there, and everybody wants that ocean of calm, of peace, of clearer head, of whatever they've heard meditation is good for. And it's all just right there. But it's how do we get there? And so some people find their way there using apps. Some people find their way there through like a yoga class, or they've taken a meditation class, and that's all great. But realize that for every single human being, there are still many ways to meditate. So there are literally billions upon billions of ways to meditate. So if you've tried one or two ways and it hasn't worked for you, try a few more at least, because there are billions of options. And with meditation and this concept of expansion specifically, it is giving yourself the time to slow down. It is giving your mind the time to take a vacation. And this ties in with space I mentioned at the beginning. So if you think of, and I could talk about this forever, so I'll keep it really short, but it's like every cycle in life, including a life cycle, has a beginning, a middle, and ending in space. A beginning, a middle. Your dishwasher has beginning, middle, ending, and space. Like every cycle, even in a day, we've got morning, midday, evening, and there's space in between every ending and new beginning. But what happens a lot, since we've been talking a lot about just culture and our society here, that space gets overridden. A lot of times we end one thing, if we even end it, and we're on to the next beginning. Right. It's like, oh, what's next? What's next? Oh, I got this goal done. No, I'm not even done with it, but I'm gonna set another goal. Or, oh, I've lost this job, and everyone's like, well, what are you going to do? Instead of like, hey, you should take a break for a while. Hey, you should take a few days off, take a few years off. Or you go through school and it's like, well, what's next? You're gonna get your master's, you're going to do this. What's the next job? Or, it's just always the next thing. And so the element of space, it's not always admired as much as the hustle and the doing, but that really is truly where the magic happens. And it really is where, when you slow down, the things that you want can even come to fruition, because it's kind of like chasing something. And at some point, or will you ever get it? I don't know. You chase something, it runs away from you. So if you're in this constant hustle, I need that, I need the next thing, in a way, it's going to keep moving a little bit away from you. You can probably catch it at some point, but when you slow down, then it's sort of like, it's like role reversal. All of a sudden the thing catches up to you. It's like, oh, that's what I've been chasing, and it's finally showing up. But until we slow down and give ourselves this energy of expansion and space, all the things we think we're working for, although that might work for some people, I've found for more people it doesn't work. And in the process, you're wearing yourself out. You're wearing your systems down, like going, not giving yourself a break. And it's like, if you were to work 24/7, 365, at some point, you're probably going to want a vacation, whether you think you would or not. There's a part of that's just going to be like, I need a vacation. My body needs a break. My brain needs a break. My energy, my whatever part of me needs a break. So that's the other reason to add some meditative moments to your days, because you need a break. You need a vacation. You will need it at some point. So implementing a little time, and it can be just 20 seconds. The thing with meditation is that it doesn't have to be 30 minutes, doesn't even have to be 20 minutes. It can be 5 minutes less. It can be literally 20 seconds. So in meditation, it's also this chance of just to savor being alive. And in that, it means learning how to honor life's ups and downs. So meditation can really prepare us for life. And so specifically today, I will mention more on this whole expansion thing. So let's actually do a little centering. And you don't need to sit to meditate. You can lie down, you can stand up, you can move your body if you need to move your body. For some people, I'm learning a lot more about trauma right now too. Some people need to like rock a little bit. Some people need to keep their eyes open when they meditate. So don't feel like it has to look any one way, but make sure that you are comfortable. And if you like to close your eyes, close your eyes. If it feels nice to look at something pleasant. I wouldn't stare at the computer right now. I would look out the window. Maybe you've got something cool in the room you like to look at, a picture that you love, or at some point the eyes might close on their own, and that's beautiful as well. And so as you check that your body feels comfortable, and if it doesn't, ask yourself, have I moved my body yet today? So it might be something to add to the list. But settle in as best you can. And if you need to move, move. And if you like being still, then feel what stillness is like right now in the body. And you take a few breaths that you can feel. So we breathe over 20,000 times a day. Like, when's the last time you thought about the breath, felt the breath? And even within your breath, next time you exhale, all the air out. When you breathe in, you can feel the beginning of your inhale. You breathe in to the middle of the inhale. You breathe in, it's the end of the inhale. There's a little pause, right? When the inhale turns into the exhale and you exhale, it's the beginning of the exhale, the middle of the exhale, the end of the exhale. And there's a little pause. And you breathe in. There's a little pause, and then you breathe out. There's a little pause. So as you breathe here, that can be enough for a lot of people. They find that just using the breath and noticing the breath, whether it's adding that pause awareness, telling yourself that you're breathing in, breathing out. You can also start to check in with what does show up when you slow down. Does it feel like your mind moves quicker? Does the mind move slower? Do certain thoughts come to the forefront of the mind more than others? Do you feel emotion? Do you feel something percolating from the neck down somewhere else in the body? And if it feels safe, get curious around what's showing up already, if anything. And feeling into that whole notion I shared of being in the body, being all the way down in your toes and fingers, and feeling the legs and feeling the arms, feeling the chest, feeling the breath. And there's an expansive element even in the breath, in the inhale. You breathe in and you can feel your ribs expanding. When you breathe out, you can feel the ribs contracting. So you might tune into that, just straight up physiological feeling of expanding with the inhale and contracting with the exhale. If you can picture beyond the confines of the physical body, this energy is moving around you, just like the inhale and the exhale. The inhale expands, energy moves away from you, and there's a contraction. You just empty the exhale from the lungs. And the more you breathe, noticing if there's a softening that might be happening in the body. So you're starting to tap more into the relaxation response in the nervous system. Feeling, so you can reveal and heal. So as we clear the body out, making it an even clearer channel, so you can use it as a good tool. So as you're here breathing, still settling, moving, I invite you to think of something that is happy to think about, something you love to do, a place you love to go or want to go, a memory that lights you up. What's your most favorite thing in the whole world? And when you think of this thing, picture it in your mind, smell it, taste it, hear it, and just noticing the effects on the body when you're thinking the Peter Pan thoughts, the happy thoughts. Does it feel more open, inviting, energizing, sparkly, warm? Or does it feel different than that? Now, to not dip you too low, but also think of things that might create just a little stress, something that you don't necessarily care for, something that doesn't have as pleasant of a feeling, and just notice what happens in this moment in the body. You know, for me, I can feel it in my heart. It feels like just a little sunkenness. I can actually feel a little cooler, like my toes are getting cold. And then rewind, go back into the pleasant thought, go back into the happy thought, go back into things that you love. What do you love so much? What do you love to do? What makes you laugh? And just feeling, it might start really subtle in the body, but just noticing then the shift again. And although the body holds so much wisdom, the mind holds so much power. So you can feel like, wow, I am just creating this in my mind right now. I'm perceiving these thoughts and memories and ideas, and my body's responding to them. So if you're feeling steady where you are, you might also think of something you've been working on lately. Maybe it's a question you have of something, should I do this? Should I do that? And breathe into it. Just stay slow and grounded. Feel the breath. And as you pose the question, just seeing what shows up. Does it feel like a more expansive energy? Does it feel more contracting? Maybe there's another message coming through that's not necessarily a big expansive or contracting sort of feel, but it's just that deeper knowledge, speaking to gut intuition, gut wisdom. As you breathe into your belly, also notice if you felt the belly yet. If you need to put a hand right around the belly button, sometimes that helps to breathe more there in the belly. So you have another place of expansion. True physical expansion as the inhale moves the belly forward. The exhale draws the navel back to the spine. So another place to tune in, and everyone will be different. You might feel more messages in your heart. You might feel it in your whole body. You might feel it around your body. As we were mentioning, heart and gut, also just checking in with the barometers you have there. And even just having feeling of hand on belly or having awareness of belly might help you tune into, is this my truth? Is this someone else's truth? Just getting curious. So if you're in a nice space and you want to stay and explore, just give yourself permission to stay. But if you're like, oh no, I felt it, I'm good. You want to come back slowly. Anytime you take a break like this, you've shifted your brainwave states. So it's a delicate re-entry to your day. So whether you open the eyes, or you might open the eyes like, oh, I'm not ready to open the eyes, close the eyes. You want to feel the ground again. If the eyes are open, you might look around, orient yourself to your space, feel yourself again back in the body. So sometimes when I meditate, it's like, whoa, I'm way out there. I'm one with the stars. I feel my spirit, but it's like, you're a human right now. So come back into your human body, feel it, touch it, feel the ground. So just reflect briefly on how you felt during that. If you're able to feel, first of all, whatever that brought you, anything is welcome always. Anything that happens is welcome and probably needed to some degree. But then also not just how you felt overall, but were you able to tap into just a little more of the expansion, or when I mentioned the happy thought and thinking of those, did it feel different? Even if it was just a little bit different in the body versus something you're not looking forward to, or maybe it was something that you were thinking you're looking forward to, and then there's a part of like, oh, it's actually like not as expansive as I thought. So Gary, Apryl, did you feel anything in any of that? Anything stand out? Anything to share?
I think, well, for me, there was a lot of, what you were saying prior to about like, focusing on, or, not focusing. Or so I'm like, I was like very intently focusing on not focusing. And I noticed myself kind of coming in and out of what you were saying, but like there were pockets of, I don't think I heard everything that you said. Like, I think I like went into my own little world of like, oh, but I feel so much more rested for some reason. Like, I've done, I've sat through a bunch of your meditations, and I this one feels different. And I think, kind of going in with the intention of, okay, I'm thinking about expansion and almost kind of just letting go and creating that space, like you were mentioning, so that then I have some stuff to fill that space with once I get out of this scenario. So that's kind of where I went, which was kind of interesting. I'm really also curious to hear how the people who are watching. I know Albert was mentioning he loves the description of this meditation as we were going, but that was kind of what came up for me, and I feel like now I'm like, now what? Like now I'm kind of more open to just thinking, because I think when I meditate, sometimes I get into this place where I fall into like obsessing over something that I know that I shouldn't be. And so it was kind of nice, as somebody who likes to focus a lot. I was like, let's focus on not focusing. And then I just feel super rested now. So that's where I went. I don't know, that might just be like quirky me, but it worked. It worked really well for me. How about you, Gary?
Yeah, for me, well, first and foremost, thank you so much, Rebecca. Yeah, it was such an amazing gift. Um, it was, yeah, it was great to have that sort of reminder and guide. I feel like so many of us, we work on our own, and we think we can do it all ourselves, and it's such a great metaphor of like, sometimes you need someone to sort of be that sort of guide and guide you through it. And yeah, it was great to have that reminder of, yeah, those happy times, because I feel like our lizard brain takes over a lot, and we feel like, well, because of all the stuff that's going on, again, going back to the G word, uh, don't think I should, um, think about these things. And it reminds me of a practice that I'm committing to, and I call it commit to joy. In that, joy is one of those feelings that I feel like it's how do you put it? It's something that it takes practice to do, and it's unconditional. Like, whereas how some people describe happiness is a conditional feeling, where someone did something for me, and or I got something and now I feel happy. whereas joy is something that you can tap into. And so I love that feeling of joy. And then when you were like, hey, yeah, maybe think about something else. And then I was like, no, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there. I don't want to think about that. But then, it was great to, again, it's like being in the gym, except it's the gym for the mind, of like realizing that, yes, you can. Like you have, like you said, the mind is so powerful. You have the ability to go and, like, I love that you invited us to go there, because then when we came back, it's like, oh, guess what? I can go. And then when, like, for me, it was like, oh, but when that sort of maybe trigger those thoughts or whatever, that stress hormone, realizing, oh no, I have the power to change my thoughts and my feelings. I don't have to just sort of be like sort of unconsciously flowing through this planet. So I'm going to pause there with that, but yes.
Yeah.
Hey,
Awesome.
so good. Thank you for your reflections. And I don't even know how long that went, but it was less than 5 minutes. And it's like, for people who don't have time to meditate, again, it doesn't even need to be that long. But what you like, Apryl, feeling so rested, I love that, especially for you. But that's a good sign from your meditation. Should not only let you rest, and depending on how deep you go and how your sleep is, meditation can bring you greater rest than sleep in terms of resting your brain and your nervous system. And that essentially you're bringing the stress hormones down like right away, and you're putting your body into a healing, resting mode. So I love that you felt that, and definitely for you and your brain. And that's exactly what the style of meditation I encourage really is all about. It's like focus and not focus. And you even did this with your hands, which is so great, because that really is like, that's it. That's the syzygy of life. That's like honoring the ups, the downs. That's like, let's like go over here and go over here. And, even when we set up and focus on something in meditation, like we might be cutting ourselves off from like the joy that Gary's talking about. So sometimes when people sit and meditate, they just think they have to focus on some one things and this one breath even, or whatever. And then it's like, oh, wow, this fun little thoughts over here. Like, no, I must stay focused. Like, then you're shutting yourself off from joy and pleasure and happiness. Like, what sense does that make? And what you were saying, Gary, too, and I wanted to chime in again, even though we sort of went there, but in terms of the G word, the other thing to think about is, and this like changed it for me, because empathy is beautiful, of course, like have empathy and sympathy for what's going on the planet and with people. But even through that, what good is it for you to feel as low as they do? How are you going to help remedy anything? Because for me, then it's like the activist in me wants to help, but then I'm over here just feeling bad. I mean, it's okay to feel bad and sad for a moment, but then what good does it really do? So really, who are you to not feel that light and joy? Because that's probably going to energize you. And then you still choose mindfully what you're going to do with that. Because I get that some people could then just, ignore all this stuff. But I don't know. For me, it's just like, I get it. People want to feel low. And this year, like, who am I to like feel so good about myself because so many people are hurting? But also you've got to feel good so you can help those people that are hurting. So there's just like this interesting loop that I think is important to point out for folks that do feel that, please be empathetic and feel and help and serve, but you still can't do that until you're healthy and whole yourself. And you take time to keep energizing you so you can like do the work that you might be feeling all those things around. And so with this, feeling how there is a steadiness to this. I mean, this was just a few minutes, maybe you do this every day, but it's never a sprint unless it's a sprint. Is definitely more of this pacing sort of feeling when you're starting to play with energy, especially. Don't expect it to change right away. I find that it's a slow shift, but after you do something like this every day, and now that you've heard this, your subconscious is going to probably be chewing on this a little bit, or even in your sleep, who knows what goes on, right? But that's when so much happens and you rewire, and the part of you that's, even if you didn't feel like you were listening to me in the meditation, like your subconscious is always listening. So
I mean, I heard you. I just don't know if I was like fixated on it. And I'm like,
okay. I'd rather have people do that. I'm just there to kind of be that. So I love that you did that and you didn't focus on my voice the whole time. I think that was, and that's empowerment. Like that's back to that piece of how can space create empowerment? Well, you just did it. You're like, I'm going to choose where I want to go with this and what's actually feeling supportive to me. And in that is expansion too. That opened up your energy, that let you rest. So that was fantastic. And just making these little small changes, just consistency always is key. It's the old phrase, but I think it's always true. Consistency is key. So, maybe today you just trust that your subconscious is soaking this in, but you might also feel like there are little things you want to add in, whether it's just a minute here and there of breath work,
Yeah.
honestly, thinking of your favorite daydreams and the things that you love and the joy practices, committing to joy, like that could be a great expansive practice for so many, whether it feels like meditation or not. And then really being mindful of the boundaries that you have around these practices and around your energy, because there is that point too where, I mean, just to mention it, we can get so expansive and we can feel so open. And sometimes that means energy vampires come in and they want that energy. So there's still an important piece of build your boundaries around your spaciousness and expansion. So whether this means you do, it could be straight up boundaries of shutting the door, literally shutting a door, keeping people out when you do these practices. It could mean putting your phone on silent. It could mean, making sure that there is no interruption when you do a practice like your meditation, whatever that is. And even just knowing the people in your life, especially the people that feel contracting, can you keep them at an arm's distance? Because now that you have this barometer or awareness around it, you just might start feeling from a deeper place of knowingness, this person is actually not someone who feeds me well, or I feel like I really like this friend of mine, but they're always coming at me, like taking my energy. So just be mindful that, they can still be your friends, but you might need to establish some parameters so that all this work you're doing to expand your energy also doesn't mean that someone else is going to come in and strip it away before you even get to play in it and see what happens with it.
Yeah, and I think even, to speak to that too, for my like more like literal people who want to, need something like super tangible to kind of tie this to. When you think about like you're expanding your energy and you've got all of these things that are that you want to do, and you're working on expanding and giving yourself that space to grow, right? Like, you buy a shoe that might be just a little bit bigger than your foot, and then you grow into it, as a kid, and then you buy another size. You don't go and you buy like a size 10 shoe when you're only size 6, right? So it's really taking that gradual climb to expanding your energy, but then also acknowledging that, don't try so hard to like fill the shoe super fast, right? Take your time with it, and give, just like as kids grow, you're kind of giving time to kind of process. It's not like are a giant overnight, unless you're like in the thick of puberty or whatever, and you're an 11-year-old boy that is like super tall now. It was like thinking about my son.
He's speaking
But
for, yep.
I know, I'm like, he went from like wearing my shoe to like 4 sizes bigger than me and 3 inches. But it still was gradual, right? It feels like 2020 didn't even exist, but like in the span of, that's still 7 months. And so when you're thinking about, creating boundaries, and I just want to talk about this a little bit because I've been thinking about boundaries in so many different ways recently. And just kind of thinking about when you create this expansive energy, don't just you might feel like super like energized and like ready to go. And if you're like me, you're like that, okay, I'm gonna go do this, pew 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 pew, you're like just really like running because the energy is so charged and so free. But that is something that then can lead you to burnout, and then you have it can cause you to close off. So when you're what I love about what you're saying, Rebecca, is like, really like create that expansive energy and then like fill it, but take your time. Like, it doesn't need to be like, okay, I've created all this space and all this energy, and now I'm going to just like, shoot through the moon and just get everything done. Try to pace yourself, right? Make it this thing that's a little bit more gradual, because what we're trying to avoid here is burnout. And maybe I speak from experience, because when I started my business, I was like writing a book, and I was starting the business, and I was going through a coaching program, and I was, doing all these new things and setting up new processes, and it was exhausting, and to the point where it's kind of put me at a stopping point, and I was expanding too fast. And so you want to really be mindful of this in your practices, like really take things in a gradual way, as long as you see that forward progress. And doing it in a little bit of a slower pace, it can probably give you more opportunity to grow. And it'll probably be just as fast as if you tried to like slam on the gas and then take a break later. So that was something that was really on my mind when I was like listening to what you were saying, Rebecca, about like, don't take this as a as an opportunity to create space and then like super, fill it super fast. Take your time with it and expand on a nice, healthy way.
You know what it was actually making me think, to that point, April, of the expansion and not wanting to go, too quick. Like when you blow up a balloon, you got to go slow and gradual and
Yes.
it expands. If you try to blow it up too fast, it's going to pop. But I think of expansion as becoming more whole, like
Mm.
becoming more like you and stepping into the you that is you. And it sort of like reminds me of like this empty spin-jiff can. I feel like this is like everyone, especially over the last year, right? Like you're trying to like pour from an empty pitcher and you're trying so hard, but like nothing's coming out. But like imagine if you applied some of these practices that Rebecca's talking about, like rest and meditation. Like look what will happen. Like you like fill up again, like and then you're like whole. And like not only are you whole, but like you're like completely full. And then you can really give people your true
Oh my
self. So anyways, I'm just gonna leave it at that. But that's what I think of when I think about expansion.
I love it. Oh, Gary, I love it. That was an awesome way to put a little cap on that. But yeah, and I think, yeah, he's like, how does that taste? I don't know how you did that. Now I'm gonna have to go watch the replay. Of
It's called magic.
our super magician. But I think, to kind of like wrap this up and close, I don't know, Rebecca, if you have anything else to say. So, I always like to say if nobody is watching the entire hour, a powerful hour that we just had, is there, is if there's anything that people are going to take away from this, this webinar, and the information you shared, what's the one thing that you want to make sure that they don't, that they walk away with?
I mean, for me, it's like this has become my power pose like forever. And it's like, to me, that's expansion. So it's like, whether it's this or whatever other big feeling in the body, how that shows up, it's like, just keep it so simple. Does it feel like this? Do it. Does it not feel like that? Don't do it.
Yeah.
So it's just keep it real simple for yourself and know what it feels like to have a yes, to have expansion, to have yes. It's not always a yes, I guess, but to feel the expansion. A lot of times it's a yes, right? Or an oh yeah versus an ooh. So
yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
All right, Gary, do you have anything to add? I have nothing else.
No, Rebecca nailed it.
That was amazing. So thanks, Rebecca, for leading this month's discussion. For those of you who are our ASC peeps who are chiming in the chat, live chat, thank you so much for being here. And for those of you in the ASC who are going to check this out on the replay, definitely let us know if you watched it and if you had any takeaways. For those of you who are not a part of the Accountability Success Circle and want to join this amazing community where we have these conversations. Now, our monthly webinars are always open for everybody to view because we just want to share with you some of the amazing things that are happening in the community, but there's so much more. So if you're curious about it and you haven't joined yet, then take a look at accountabilitysuccesscircle.com. Come hang out with us. Help get some energy for all the goals that you are trying to accomplish, and just be in community with other people who are also trying to accomplish their goals, and do it in a fun way and do it in a positive way. But you also get a little bit of personal growth infused at the same time. So thank you so much for checking us out. We're going to do our 20th webinar coming up next month, in the month of April, and we will be announcing what our theme is at the end of the month at our happy hour. So for those of you community members, hope to see you there, and we'll talk to you then. Thank you guys. Thanks, Rebecca. Thanks,
welcome.
Gary. Talk to you later.